So yeah, without further ado, I'll let the members of VRS introduce themselves. So I think, Frank, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, well, thank you very much for having us and for all of you to be here. So we, VRS, have been here for 21 years this year, actually. I myself have been for 6.5 years. So I come from a biotechnology background. I've always liked science, but I was absolutely awful in the lab, broke a lot of things. So it was probably best for me to get out. And ever since, I've been really enjoying speaking to scientists and helping them getting the best jobs for them. And I think what we really enjoy at VRS is really, so we're all scientists, so we know what you go through and we know the clients in the market. So really want to help you as best as we can. So I've been doing it for 6.5 years. I'm now based in Paris, where I'm focusing on the development for our European services. And yeah, that's it for me.
Great. Hi, everyone. I'm Eleanor. My background's in physics. I'm currently based in London and I lead the chemistry team. So I specifically focus on roles from junior up until very senior positions in chemistry, physics and engineering.
My name's Craig and I look after the life sciences team. We recruit again across nationwide and Europe with Frank. I've been in the company 4 years and my background is biomedical science. We recruit roles into small biotechs, biopharma, anywhere from entry level all the way through to director. I'm also the one doing the presentation, so bear with me while I share my screen. Can everyone see that?
Yep, all good.
Great. So the reason for this workshop is to get you involved and to make you understand, I guess, a little bit more about the recruitment process, number one, and also how to perform in the interviewing and through your job search. So this is to give you an edge during job interviews, but also to give you a bit of an edge with navigating the job market and to understand the do's and don'ts when you're applying for new roles. So one thing that often gets missed, certainly within academia and postdocs perhaps, is the diversity of roles that are available to people who are postdoc, masters or PhD qualified. And often through academia, we always think about the hardcore research positions that are in your pharmas or biotechs, but realistically with a science background, even a specific or unique science background, there is an abundance of roles that you could potentially go into. Obviously, the classic one is lab-based R&D, maybe preclinical or clinical research, manufacturing, but there are other roles that support the lab that really help the lab move along and be more efficient in their processes. They include non-lab, desk-based research positions, quality assurance and regulatory roles, project management, data science and software engineers, and other engineering positions that support the lab through maintaining instrumentation, installations of instrumentation, and developing novel applications for those instruments so that you can get down to that hardcore R&D. There's other roles that we've briefly discussed, or Frank briefly discussed, roles in science that don't actually include working in a lab or supporting the lab directly, and those may be roles in commercial positions such as scientific or technical sales roles, business development, marketing or market access, getting a drug to market. Something that we don't necessarily touch upon, but a science background is very much valued in, is intellectual property and governance, making policies within the scientific field. When we talk about recruitment, we have to first explore the reason why a role is become available and what is the reason for that biotech, biopharma or contract research organization looking to hire. This is something that is often floated over and the candidate doesn't really understand why that organization is looking to hire until the very last moment when they get the role. But I think it's very important for a candidate like yourself looking to move into industry to understand the reason for that company to hire so that you can tailor your interview or your interview technique to match with their reason for hire. So more often than not, these are the 3 reasons why the company is looking to hire. And the first one is a positive reason. The company is expanding, and they just need another a brain in the team or another hand at the desk. That could be due to workload. That could be due to the company moving a slightly different technical direction, or it could be for the company offering a different service. Another reason is for the transfer or promotion. So someone in the organisation or in the team at the moment has had a promotion into a more senior position or transferred into a different department. Perhaps they were a bench scientist and moved into a project management role, or indeed a bench scientist that moved into a business development role. Now, are the company looking to replace that person directly? Are they looking to see what their background was and essentially go after a clone of that person? Or are they changing the role slightly because that person's still within the organisation, so still offers a lot of value, so it means they can change the role lightly for perhaps for a less requirements or maybe a different area? And the third, which is slightly negative, but again, it's natural and normal within the recruitment field, is someone leaves the organisation for a new opportunity, perhaps a better opportunity or a career moving opportunity for them. And will the department restructure because of this, or will they just get a like for like? Once you understand why the reason the company is hiring, you can again tailor yourself or tailor your search because of that. So the process in which recruitment works is usually starts with a job posting or advertisement. A lot of the roles that we get are through companies that aren't advertising on other networks. So they'll advertise directly with recruitment consultancies like ourselves, or perhaps they'll put on workshops. There's lots of new organisations looking to hire the best PhD or postdoc candidates, and they'll set up workshops on site. They may advertise on the major job boards like Reed, CV Library, Total Jobs, things of that nature, or they might, particularly at a startup or biotech level, advertise initially within their network, who at the university or who within their alumni know people who with this skill set that they can bring on board. Following that, there is an application process. That's usually consists of a cover letter as a minimum or an assessment. More often than not, it's just the cover letter there. Then your candidates are moved into a long list. From that long list, you are going to telephone interview or video interview a candidate. And that really is more of a screening call to understand the basic requirements of the role. Has this person this person got the technical understanding? Does this person know the logistics of this role? Do they know it's on site, and do they know what's meant, what they need to have? Following that, it's a shortlist, which moves on to a second interview, or maybe in some cases a third interview, which will usually comprise of a presentation for a senior position. Most PhDs and postdocs here will likely do a presentation on the research they've done, or research on the presentation the company is interested in, or the technical research that company is interested in. And following that, either a technical interview and a competency interview, which is usually with a HR or a lab manager of some description. Following successful second interview, you'll often be offered a role. Now, obviously, there's a lot of things that you have to consider. They include salary, package, what's included in that, pension, healthcare, perhaps, cycle to work schemes, things of that nature. Do I have to relocate for the role, and is there a relocation package associated to that? And when do they want me to start? If you're applying for roles, for example, to start when your postdoc finishes in April, can they accommodate you starting in May or later, should you wish to do so? Once you've got all these ticked off, you'll accept the offer and you'll be within the organisation. One thing I wanted to touch on, I think the whole reason for us being involved with Innovation Forum is to get people to better understand how a recruitment consultancy can help you, and specifically how VRS can help you. We have wide-reaching access to roles. We've been within the sector, as Frank mentioned, for 21 years. This means we've built relationships up throughout that time with major scientific organisations that have been expanding throughout that time. It means that we can better direct you to roles that match your experience, or at least advise you on roles that are available for people with your knowledge and expertise. A lot of people come to us again with, I just want to get in R&D research, but haven't actually considered roles that use their scientific background in a different role. We can help you with CV and interview preparation, which is what we hope to do now in the breakout rooms toward the end of this presentation or workshop. And again, salary and negotiation. It's our job to promote you. We're cost-free, we're friendly, and we're an accessible service. We will keep up to date with you and what your personal lives and ongoings in that, in order to better understand when you are ready to start work or ready to move on. And the best thing about us is while you're going away doing your research, we can find jobs and keep you updated with what the market looks like. So the three main pillars of what companies look for when looking to hire candidates are their technical expertise. So how good they are at a particular technique, for example, or a particular research area. Their transferable skills. So do they have good team working skills or organizational qualities that make them good for that role? And thirdly, and perhaps one of the most important, culture. Are they going to fit the culture of this organization? Are they going to get on with the people currently in there? And do they have the right attitude to join this particular organization? Not every candidate will fit with every company, and that's important to note. Often you'll think you've done really well in a round of recruitment and not understand why you haven't got the role. And that might be due to not having a good company culture fit. Startups, such as the ones that Innovation Forum are working with, are a unique organization that require people with a specific combination of these three skills. Whereas working in a pharmaceutical organization that's pre-established, they might be specifically looking for someone with this core technical knowledge, the same profile that they've recruited for 20 plus years. It's important to consider these 3 points when applying for job positions within your specific sector. So this is really about how we can best prepare ourselves. So now we understand the process in which to apply for roles. Now we understand why companies are looking to hire and what the fundamentals are in terms of applying for positions and what to better stress, that technical, that transferable, that company culture. It's now good to understanding how do we perform in interviews to reflect that. So what types of interviews are out there? Now, interviews can be comprised of multiple different types of assessments, if you like. They can be a classic interview style or a traditional interview style with competency and technical interviews. They could comprise of tests that may be desk-based and test your scientific expertise, or lab-based and test your practical expertise. It could be a combination of everything. Often larger organizations, your big pharma organizations will have things like assessment centers to whittle down larger groups of candidates that they want to get involved in. And that could be over telephone, video, or in person and on site. How you prepare for those types of interviews is very much dependent on what the protocol is for them interviewing. But it's good to have an understanding of what those interviews are like prior to you getting involved in the interview process. So I'd always encourage when you're making applications to follow up to ask, what is the interview process like for these for this role? Again, why is a company going to hire you? This again comes down to 3 key areas, and how you prepare for that interview, it comes to these 3 areas. So for example, you need to know what that company is about, what research they're involved in, and greater than that, what values they have as an organization. You need to understand your CV, your technical fit for the role, why you've done something in your previous work, what you've done, how you've gone about it, and the scientific detail of that. You then have to be able to apply your CV, your technical abilities to the job description and to the company. If, for example, you've had a passion for oncology research throughout your career and you've done something specific within a specific disease area, then tell the company that if it's of relevance to the organization, I conducted my PhD research within oncology because I was very much interested in it. Therefore, I'm very much interested in this role, conducting oncology research. That's a very basic way of putting it. And the attitude, how you are seen throughout the interview process. So a lot of companies will hire a lot based off personality, and not only their technical ability, but someone who can pick up and adapt to ever-changing situations. Within a startup environment, such as the company's innovation forum are working with, there'll be times where people have to muck in slightly different areas to what they were initially brought on by. One day you might be doing something in the lab, and the next day the company might slightly change direction, and you'll have to be doing something else. That may mean that you have to pick something up, but who are the best people to cope with that, and how can you put that forward in an interview? So we talked traditionally or historically about a technical versus a competency interview. They're assessing slightly different things. Technical interviews tend to go back to your basic core knowledge of science or molecular interactions, for example. Often within a technical interview, they're looking at the underlying principles of certain areas. You'll have spent your PhD and postdocs perhaps specializing in specific areas. This technical interview might ask you to strip it all back to the basics, essentially, and be able to explain and build upon that throughout the interview. You want to be able to emphasize your expertise, your relevant university projects, your relevant postdocs, year in industries, summer placements and part-time jobs to give the best impression of yourself in that interview. Be honest. Not everyone is expecting you to know everything, and therefore you can tell them that, you know, I'm an expertise in this area, I know this very well, but actually I need support in this in a future area. A caveat to that would be understanding the job description, understanding the job role in the company to a point by which you know you know the skills that you don't know, and you know the skills that you know really well. We always say at VRS, the best candidates know they know what they know really well, but they also know what they don't know and where they need support in the role. You don't want to lie at this point, because realistically, the experts on the other end of the phone or video call are going to know. How have you overcome technical challenges? How have you problem solved? Scenarios and examples where you've given, you've overcome a problem. For most of you, your PhDs would be a great example of where you've had to problem solve, and where perhaps something has gone wrong and you've had to rethink your PhD project. It's emphasizing or thinking of those scenarios and giving examples of when that's happened. Again, they may ask you to do a test. Competency is completely different to technical in the sense that they want to know what your personality is like, what your culture is like, what you believe your strengths are and what you believe your weaknesses are, what your aspirations are within that role. Realistically, you want to be able to tell the company that you're ambitious without telling them that you want to progress too quickly. Often we want people who are being recruited for that role, and they're happy to do that role for 1 to 2 years before progressing. It's good to be ambitious, but it's not good to be overly ambitious and want to be the CEO in, you know, 4 years perhaps. They may challenge you with different scenarios and how you have gone about overcoming those scenarios. So some of those would be like how you've dealt with a difficult colleague in the past, how you've overcome a particular challenge, and you can give both technical examples of this. So this may be lab-based examples, but you can also do examples perhaps in a sporting life or a part-time role as well. The main thing in competency is to be flexible and be positive. If they want people who want to be able to work for the organisation, who haven't slated their previous employer and are positive about moving on rather than negative about why they're moving on. And how can you apply your expertise to slightly different technical areas? They may also ask about logistics and salary and things of that nature. So interview preparation, again, something that's overlooked. Research the company, role, the interviewers, their website, their LinkedIn, the literature they've recently published, and perhaps literature that the interviewers have published in their past as well. There's good sites like LinkedIn for that. There's good sites like ResearchGate, where you can have a look at people's past publications and see if there's any relevancies or crossover to the work that you've done in your current role. Understanding where those interviews have come from and what their progression through that company is or has been is going to be very relevant for you to build rapport with the organisation. Perhaps they've been to the same university as you, perhaps they've done a similar postdoc with a similar supervisor. Again, this is going to help you build rapport, and people tend to recruit people that they know or know through other people. Make sure you're confirming your schedule, agenda and panel, so who you'll be meeting, so you're not shocked on the day. We've had candidates in the past that have been quite taken aback when 3 people have turned up on a panel instead of 1 on a video call. Obviously, that would make you overly nervous, but if you're able to adjust for that pre-interview, then you've not got any surprises on the day. If you have to go on site, maybe plan for a dry run, get in your car and go and visit the site. If it's 4 hours away, I don't expect you to do that, but certainly plan ahead. Dress smartly. Over video interview, that does count as well. The same. It's still not. It's not a t-shirt. It's a shirt and tie if necessary. Certainly to give the best impression, even if that is over a video interview. And try to understand what that process looks like. We had a discussion earlier in this presentation to why the company is looking to hire. That could be one of your questions. What is the reason you were hiring for this role? And if that's a like for like, you could explain why you should be a good fit for that role. One thing I put in blue at the bottom is privatize your social media accounts. It's just something that's just worth doing purely because we've had people had their offers taken away from them because they've not passed security clearance based on what they posted in Facebook in 2011 when at school. So it's very good to have just get that privatized so you're not at a disadvantage anyway. Interview conduct, we briefly mentioned this, but be enthusiastic, be flexible, sell yourself, don't be modest. A lot of scientists have sell one particularly personality trait or strength really well, but don't necessarily go on to say anything else. As scientists, I think we need to be a little less modest and shout about our achievements. Be honest but savvy. Don't say something such as, if you wanted to go back to do a postdoc in 2 years' time, there's no point in mentioning that to the employer that you're recruiting for straight away. Be savvy in your answers, understand what their requirements are and adjust your answers accordingly. Don't lie, obviously, but understand that this is an interview and they want people who are going to be with them for the foreseeable future. Address the requirements for the role and highlight your strengths and give them no reason not to offer you the job. Strength, strength, strengths, only one weakness when required. And tell them what they want the job. A lot of people finish an interview process, think it went really well, but not actually tell the employer that they want the job. If you do want the role and you think it's gone really well, at the end of the interview, let them know. You can even say, oh, I've really enjoyed my time here. When do you expect me to hear back? Or can I expect feedback soon? Something of that nature. That's not necessarily, do you think you're going to give me the job? But it's showing that your enthusiasm, showing you're positive, and it's showing that if they were to offer you the position, you would accept it. I'm going to touch on negotiating offers employment, but we're going to go into breakout rooms shortly after this to go through this as well. But one thing to bear in mind is take stock of the interview, of the entire interview process, who you've met with, how you rate the role, weigh up the full package, the company, the benefits, the progression. Often your first role is one of your most important roles within industry, just so you can get a grasp on how industry works, the regulations, the sectors, the timelines, the pressures. And often salary and company benefits aren't going to be the most important drivers for you at this moment in time. Steady your career in industry and then look to progress from there. If you look at the scientific industry in a whole, most of the people in the top roles within the organizations have PhDs or have done PhDs part-time, perhaps throughout their progression. It's important to know that if you perhaps don't get the salary that you want straight away, it's likely that you'll build and progress faster than perhaps someone who doesn't have a master's, who does only just have a master's or something like that. If you are going to negotiate, be prepared to walk away, be polite, because you never know when you'll be working with that person again. The science industry is a particularly small one and there's a lot of overlap. But leverage other possibilities as well. Can you work from home? That would save you money on your commute and things of that nature. So I mentioned we're going to go into breakout rooms shortly. I'll answer questions from this presentation right now if you'd like me to. Frank is going to look at CV tips, optimizing your job search through LinkedIn, and realistically the do's and don'ts on LinkedIn and job applications. Elle is going to look at package negotiation, what the market looks like for scientists at this moment in time, and how does your experience stack up against industry in terms of salary and things of that nature. I'm going to continue along the lines of interviewing, and feel free to ask me any interview questions that you've come across in your career so far that you thought were tricky, and we can hope negotiate that as well. But thank you very much, and looking forward to hearing from you shortly.
That's fantastic, Craig. I think that's really interesting, and I really like kind of the tactical nature to just look at breaking it down scientifically, to just hear the processes and here's how you can go through it. So that's great. So we've had a few questions in the chat and a few coming personally in too. So I guess we can ask. And please feel free, anyone, if you'd like to just if you have a question, put your camera on or put the hands up function, and you can ask it live. But yeah, we can kick off with Abdul's question about, so most of the time we face the issue of experience, like if you're from an engineering background and have to gain experience from these days, you need experience to get experience, etc. So a company will ask for experience to hire you, but you won't get any experience without being hired. So how do you cope with that whole thing? And you addressed it a little bit.
It is difficult because when we receive roles such as engineering roles into our organization, some of our clients will not be able to compromise on an experienced engineer for a specific role. Whereas some of our clients will be able to train people into an engineering type position. It's understanding and connecting with the people who are able to train you into those positions, and how you find those people are through mostly networking within your industry and your sector. So that may be over LinkedIn, that may be at events and conferences, that may be speaking to hiring managers or engineers within those particular companies, even when that company aren't advertising for an active role. So essentially it's networking, finding the roles that do and will give you training and will train people who have a good personality and good technical background in something else, and going from there.
I would also say make the most of university. I'm not sure what level you are, but any kind of summer projects that might be available, speak to your tutors or anyone who's running modules that might have summer schools. Do some kind of volunteering throughout university, take the lead in a project, in a module. And once you finish university, don't limit yourself on location. There definitely are positions that will hire straight graduates with no experience, but you're going to need to find them and they may not be commutable for you. Also consider taking a 3 to 6 month contract. It could be, I've hired into roles just having kind of engineering positions, helping out with some things as basic as admin, doing like engineering admin. And, you know, once you have your foot in the door, you've got that name on your CV, it will make it much easier to build upon that experience. So just be very flexible. And if it means taking some kind of free work over summer and getting unpaid work, every little counts.
And I think that's where we can help as well, is we know what some of our clients are looking for, and it's all about opportunities. So sometimes we will be aware of positions that don't appear online. So if we know where you are and what you're looking for, as Craig said, we will keep an eye for positions that will be of interest to you. It happens that some clients just never ever have a job description and they just come to us and say, I need this profile, I need that profile. And that's where I think it's really useful to have this network to make people you are close to aware that you are looking for. And again, having a tailored CV for specific positions. And again, that's why it's good to speak with other engineers or people alike, is to know their background, what experience was the most valuable for them, and what got them into their career and their current job, really.
Oh, that's great. And I have another question that came direct of, which actually might combine with two questions that came in of, so how would you say it's best to negotiate salary, and how do you kind of address that? And maybe this comes into another question that came in about how do you gauge your own market value, and like where should you be pitching yourself in terms of salary and like positions as well. So yeah, any thoughts on that? We can go maybe deeper.
Yeah, I'll have the breakout room.
Any general points, I guess.
In terms of gauging where you are in the market, definitely chat to recruitment agencies. No one's going to have a scope of the market like we will, because we work across the whole country. We work with a wide range of different companies. Different kinds of companies can afford to pay different levels, different things. It depends exactly what you're looking for. When it comes to negotiating salaries, you have to have kind of a strong reason why you're worth that salary and why you think you are. If you're just asking for more money for the sake of it, it's probably not going to go down too well. But if you're going with a structured argument and a realistic argument, and you can prove your expertise, maybe you could do some market research either online or with a recruitment agency and see what the general market rate is, especially if you're currently interviewing with other companies as well who are offering a slightly higher salary. And again, if you are negotiating salaries and you've gone through a recruitment consultant, they will be able to do it all for you, which definitely takes the pressure off as well.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to ask as well. I think asking, some people say this is the hard line and this is that we can't offer any more than this, but some clients there will be some negotiation. And again, as El said, that is the reason why you should use recruitment consultancies, because we can help you out at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, that's great. And then, oh wait, we're having some questions coming in now. Fast. I guess we can address Maria's question on I'm trying to change field as well as leave academia for industry. How does it look for a 37-year-old to apply for internships and applying for experience, but reject me since the CV is more for a more senior role, but don't have experience in the field. So
yeah. That's a tough one, and I don't think it has anything to do with your age. I think it's realistically it's due to the expertise that you have in a certain sector, and explaining that to someone why you want to move on and why you've chosen to change now, not change X amount of years ago. I think it's got to be more of a soft approach to the organisation you're interested in, and very much a tailored one. If there's a middle ground that you can take, I don't know what industry you're in, and I don't know what sector you're in, and I don't know what sector you're trying to get to, but if there's a middle ground between the two where you can bridge the gap maybe for 1 or 2 years to gain further experience of where you want to be, then that is probably a good option for you to do. But again, it's about networking and understanding the requirements of the manager themselves. So if there's a particular company advertising for that internship, speak to the person in charge, the manager, over LinkedIn, over at research events or network events, and understand their requirements and explain your case.
And another point on this, again, I don't know what industry you work in or what you're looking to move into, but I did have a very similar situation to you with a candidate who had spent many years in a lab-based role and wanted to move into software. And she took the time to take a little bit of time out, if you can afford to, or do it alongside your current position and do some further studies. So she did a programming course. If there is an opportunity for you to do something on the side, maybe a part-time master's, if that's not too much, or something a little bit shorter, that would help you get into that field, that could also help.
And I would also say tailor your CV. Obviously, you must have a lot of experience in a specific area. And sometimes it's good to rewrite your CV, not from scratch, but to obviously show that you're looking to change. And I think to make it easy is to identify transferable skills, whether you've learned a technique or how to use an instrument very quickly, or these things to make really your skills valuable for a range of industries. So it's really passing on the right message to the potential companies or employers that would be interested in your CV. And in that case, I think a cover letter could be a very good option, because as you said, the CV is really the first thing people will see. So if your CV shows a lot of specific experience, then people will wonder why you are looking to change in something different. So I think a very specific, tailored cover letter is always a very good way to show your intentions and really explain that you're motivated and you have what it takes. You might be a quick learner, and again, some hobbies, some DIY. These kind of things could be really useful.
And I would also say don't give up. It might take a long time, or quite a while, but perseverance is definitely key with that. You will find the right role, and maybe aim for a slightly smaller company. I can imagine big corporations are going to be quite structured. So a smaller, maybe startup or SME might have that flexibility, and see kind of you having them other skills might really apply to them as well, and take the chance.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I would definitely recommend you can go in more detail about your situation specifically in the breakout rooms. So I think there are a couple more questions there, but I think we can set up the breakout rooms now. But just as we set those up, maybe a question from Sarah, and can just finish this section just on the expectations of how working with a recruitment company would work, and what should you expect? Yes, just briefly.
Yeah, well, you should expect to understand the process very clearly. You should expect a thorough service, and I guess a service that you feel that you've been valued throughout the entire process. There are some cowboys out there that are very much not, they don't help you out or anything like that, but we will advise you on market trends. We will tell you what's out there for people with your experience level, and we will discuss the role, the company, their technologies in further detail, and prepare you for those interviews as best as possible.
I would say as well, we always try to be as honest and as transparent as possible, whereas a lot of recruitment agencies out there just will spam your CV everywhere, where we'll always ask for your permission, and we'll always have a written proof about why we would send your CV after discussing this with you. So really, we are here to help you. As Greg said, it doesn't cost you anything. The fees that we get from a client do not get taken from your salaries either. And really, you should never have to pay a penny to anyone by a recruitment agency. And really, it's use us. We're here to help you. We recommend maybe 2 to 3 agencies in order to get a good range for the positions out there. But it's always good to know who you're speaking to and what kind of jobs you're interested in to keep this all together.
Yeah, no, perfect. And I think that's actually a really good point in terms of the different recruitment models out there, where potentially if they're taking from your salary, that can also harm things in terms of your prospects, etc. But really good to know like what to look out for.